Good evening and welcome back to episode 7 of the Hooked On NRL SuperCoach podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and I'm joined by my co-host, Fish. How are we, Fish?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Good to see you back, and you've survived the old cruise. Yeah, it was a good weekend of footy for both of us. Hey, we got the Wars got to win, our mate got to win with the Roosters, and then Tigers won. So I think it's a good round of footy, and I had a good score as well in SuperCoach. So yes, it's great to be back.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Yeah, I'm keen to be back after a bit of a stint on the sidelines. Yeah, survived the cruise and keen to tuck into some more SuperCoach this week after a pretty decent week of scoring and some great games, as you said. The Tigers won, the Wars won, and some great games. So both happy campers here.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. We'll just do a quick shout out to the comments on the last video. So yeah, thanks for that, Sam and Ed. We appreciate the comment and support. It's a lot harder doing a solo job. So appreciate that. And yes, Zave didn't jump overboard, Eddie. We've got him right back here. So it's all good. We've also got a comment from SC Warrior who's traded and boosted last week Kelmer, Metcalf, and Barnett to Shibasaki, Cleary, and Haas. Now, we had a quick chat about this before the podcast, but apart from the Metcalf sell, they're all great trades. But obviously, Metcalf hunt last week. So I think you're still in overall for that trade. You're ahead. But yeah, I might be making some contingency plans to get Metcalf back into your team this week, SC Warriors. So yes, thanks for the comments, guys. Don't forget to comment on this video. We read all the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe as well. We're up to 57 subscribers now, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, we just really appreciate all the love and support you guys are giving us.
100%, mate. Thanks everyone for all the support and comments. Really appreciate it, as Fish said.
And yeah, so over now for the overall league update. First of all, we've got 100 teams in there, 100 teams flat. Like
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just can't believe how good the buy-in has been from our community we've created so far, and we just love to see it. So we'll go through, before we get into too much, we'll go through, you won't be beat. We'll go through Mitchell's team. So he scored a monster 1479 last week, and he's sitting at 517 overall. Like, that is a cracking rank, mate. You're off to a flyer. So he's got Starling and Smith in hookers. I think he's nailed that hooker combo.
Yeah.
He's got May Horse in the front row. Looks good. He's got Watson, Bateman, and Safehearth, along with Tino in the second row. Captain Cleary and Hines, Metcalf, Dewey, Garrick, Roger, Marzu, Skelton, and then Turbo, Iongi, and Ponga. Mate, I reckon that's a really good team. What about you?
Yeah, really solid side. I really like that hooker combo. Starting with Starling's a great pod play, and it's paid off big time for you there. Same with Watson as well, holding strong on him after round 1 being a bit average. And I know a few people were panic selling him, but he paid off last week against the best team, or 4-time champs with a big ton. So that's awesome, mate, that you held him, both him and Metcalf. So definitely reaping the rewards there, mate.
Yeah, he's done well. So, and he's luckily avoided a lot of the carnage, it seems. No injuries for you this week, Mitchell. So that's always a good sign. So we'll be tracking to see how you go next week. You're obviously in a great spot now with a rank of 517. Let's see. Let's hope you keep it, hey? So well done there, Mitchell. For me, we've moved up a lot now in the league after a bit of a slow start last week. But kind of as I said on the last week's podcast episode, don't get too caught up or too worried about your rank, especially in these early rounds, because the pack is so congested and it's so volatile. Like, as you can see, I've had a pretty good week last week, and I'm all the way up now to an overall rank of 6.4K. So I've gone up 54K ranks last week. So for you guys who maybe haven't had the best start, don't worry about it. It's a long season ahead. We've still got 26 more rounds, and there is 100 points separating, I think, me and Xavier. But ranks wise, it's like 25, 30K. So yeah, don't worry too much about rank early doors because it's so congested. So moving on to that, I will do a quick little review and summary of my team for last week. Obviously, we had a big score with 1446, which saw those massive green arrows. We played Pakes over Smith. Now, can't be mad with that. I was always going to be playing Pakes ahead of Smith this week. We all thought the Roosters were going to get flogged, but it turns out in being one of the greatest modern day upsets of all time. What did you think about that game as well, Xavier, just quickly?
Oh, thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a cracking game. Really stoked that the Roosters showed up and they won. I didn't captain Cleary either, so I was really a bit nervous watching that game. So it was good to see they turned up and put on a performance. Really could have at the end there. They had me a bit scared though that the Panthers might have just clutched it as they always seem to do. Bit of Cleary magic, and they always seem to when it's time to crack on, they turn it up a notch, and but it's good to see the Roosters come away with a win there.
Yeah, it is, mate. Sorry, we're just having a bit of typical difficulties. I will bring this back. So yeah, it was absolute cracker game. Like that is footy back to a P. Like the Panthers were down and out, 14 down with 8 to go, and they literally could have drawn it up or won the game on the buzzer with Tor. So yeah, how good footy's back. It's good to see. We've got obviously my big trade in from last week, Haas, which I advocated for massively on the podcast last week. He was nuts again. He's ended up turning up in base. So I'm absolutely stoked with that trade in. We've got Terrell May with 87 in base. Now I think he was on like 65 in the first half in 36-degree weather. Like he's just insane this year.
He's
Like
a beast. Yeah,
he is. Like I reckon he'll be one of the best signings for the Tigers, even though we've got all these other signings in Taruva and Skelton and Lawai. I really think Terrell May will be the best signing for us. And yeah, like 87 points. This could be the year where we load up in front row forward, which I kind of talked about last week because we also got Tino last week back from injury with a big 109. So stoked to have him back, and he pays dividends for those who started with him with a big score off the bat straight away. We also had Horse, who again another front row forward that absolutely killed it. So yeah, all the front row forwards this year doing well. Gilbert bit back to earth, a bit lower minutes, 47 now. Nothing I'm too stressed about. Very happy to hold, and I reckon there's still plenty of value to be had there. And he should just be working up his minutes to get through the rest of the season. Obviously, in halfback, we got Cleary Hines with Captain Cleary. As Xavier kind of mentioned there, going into the game, I thought he could have gone massive. And so to walk away with 80 points, look, it's not the end of the world. 80 points, I'll still take it. I'm not too mad, sort of thing. And we also got Hines. The main talking point with Hines was he got the kicking tee back last week and
yeah.
he was back kicking the conversions. So I think if you got Hines or were considering selling Hines, definitely hold off now. And I reckon soon enough he'll become a buy target, especially with the Sharks' very juicy draw coming up.
100%, mate. Just on Hines, real quick. Yeah, obviously you've got Duffy, who's not been named this week. So those that started with the Cleary and Hines are really, it's looking quite good. Both Fish and I did. I know I actually chucked a bit of a six-pack of beers on bet with one of my mates over the weekend. Just before the game had kicked off, I said that Hines would score over 80 points and he would take the goal kicking back. It wasn't looking too good most of the game. He took the goal kicking back, which is exactly how I predicted it. And then he got a try assist in the last 3 minutes, and I was absolutely cheering. So shout out to my mate Eli there, and yeah, I look forward to sinking back a six-pack of Coronas, courtesy of you.
How good, mate. Beers on Eli. But yeah, as you kind of mentioned there with Hines, like he still hasn't looked that good yet. And he's still like he got 86 on the weekend with not very much. Like I think once the Sharks continue to gel and attack and continue to get better, I think Hines will just reap the rewards for that big time. Anywho, moving on quickly to 5'8" and centers. We got 5'8", we got Dewey and Metcalf. Now, what a bounce back from Metcalf. I know in the podcast last week, I said I was very adamant on the holding of Metcalf. I wasn't too keen on playing him, but just before the game, I got that bit of impulse and was like, he's an attacking player. I'm going to play him. To walk away with 117 points, mate, I am absolutely stoked. How are you feeling? Because I know on the podcast last week, I said you were at that point in time selling Metcalf. So to end up, well, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, man, I was heavily considering selling him, and I'm really stoked that I didn't. I ended up holding faith on him, and I'm yeah, couldn't be happier about that decision. We'll get into my side later on, but got to keep faith. Warriors at home, he's turned up, and I'm very happy to hold him moving forward. Sometimes it's very easy in this game to at least at the start of the year to get caught up in the early scores. But you got to at the end of the day remember why you picked these guys. And I'm a massive Metcalf fan. It's just the Warriors as a fan, like that round one performance was absolutely dreadful, and I had, like many others, lost complete faith in us. And it was less not as much Metcalf, but it was just after seeing how we played in round one, I thought the Warriors were in for a shocking year, and a shocking game against Manly, who are just absolutely towed up their round one opponents, the Cowboys, as well. So wasn't really seeing much of the light. And then, funny game NRL is, we ended up turning the tides around and smashing Manly, which was awesome to see. And Metcalf was the main beneficiary. So I'm very happy to have held him.
Yeah, thanks with that. And then also with Dewey, like obviously last week he got about a 40 something, so we weren't too happy, about more than happy to hold. But the big green tick for Dewey is Appy was back and he kept the kicking tee. And he kicked really well as well. So I don't see Dewey losing the kicking tee anytime soon. So if you haven't started with Dewey, I think he's still a great value proposition at just under 430k. I think he will see some more attacking stats as we kind of are starting to see now with the Tigers, especially with it all starting to gel in that second half against the Eels there. Now, moving on to centers, I had Garrick, Lucas, RTS, and Marzu. Now, I'm just so happy with these centers. Garrick, if anything, was a little bit underwhelming, but then we have Dylan, Lucas, and Marzu. These were both boys that we were very keen on in the preseason, and they are just showing exactly why we are keen on him. That left edge for
Yeah.
the Knights, we called it all preseason, will shit points, and they are. So now it's interesting. I wouldn't be buying Lucas anymore, especially with the news we got just before recording with Lucas has apparently a small minor hamstring injury. He should be back for round 5, but obviously the Knights have the bye in round 4 and he's going to be missing this week. So something that both me and Xavier will have to consider moving forward. Then in fullbacks, we got obviously Turbo with the VC. Now he's another one that is under a bit of an injury cloud now as well. So I think I'm going to be holding at this point in time just because it is Tommy Turbo and they do also have the Eels next week. Those are kind of the two factors in my head saying don't hold Turbo. But I do know a lot of people are trading him this week. What are your thoughts on Turbo just quickly?
Look, I'm not against the trade at all, to be honest. But I think if he's back and healthy next week, you need to get him back in. I'm a bit of an advocate for the roulette fullback play, so I don't mind actually trading out Turbo if you've got no other fires and really chasing hard on points and really going hard at all-out attack, and going for a play such as Tedesco, who's got a good run of the Warriors this week, then Titans and Warriors following that. And when Ponga has a bye, then you can flick Ponga back to Turbo when he's got the Eels, and then you sell one of those fullbacks back to Ponga and do a bit like that. You are burning a couple of trades though, but I think points wise it would be worth it. It just depends what other fires you have to put out, because I think Turbo's going to be good to go next week at the very worst. And Dylan Lucas as well. Like 2 to 4 week injury. He's just done it today. They've got the bye next week. I can see why you would sell, but then again, it comes down to exactly what your team, how it's structured, how it's faring. For me, myself, I've already got Matt Burden, who we'll touch on later, who I just brought in, and he's done his MCL. So, I've got other fires to put out and other trade targets to get in. Personally, so I can't be doing those plays, but I am not against those plays at all. Really trading those guys out, going hard and looking short term, and trying to gain some ranks. So that's sweet as well. It just depends how your team structure is going.
Yeah, that's some good insight there, and especially with that sort of fullback roulette, because obviously not a lot of people own Turbo at all, and not Turbo, sorry, Tedesco. And Teddy kind of showed us on the weekend against the reigning Prems of 4 years in a row, the reigning champs, that he still has it. Like 117, didn't
100%.
score a try, like he still has it. And I think, especially with the Roosters' attack this year, he will be the vocal point. He will be in anything. If the Roosters are going to do well, Teddy will be at the cornerstone, center stone of it, and he will in turn be doing well in Supercoach. So yes, I like that shout big time from you there, Xavier. Just the last fullback for me to touch on is Iongi. obviously played him last week, 25. His score, obviously, with the addition of the flex this year, his score dropped out. So I think Pakes was my lowest scorer last week with 39. So yeah, pretty good week. But yeah, look, the Eels just look terrible, don't they? Like, I just have
Yeah.
not seen anything at all. I just don't even know if they're interested. He's a big watch for me. Like, obviously, he's still got a negative break even. What's his break even? It's negative 20. So there's no rush or need to move on him like straight away. But definitely be conscious of those of you who are running with only to potentially have a sort of contingency plan at a bit of a plan as to where you want to upgrade soon enough. Now, I think he's keeping his spot in the Eels team. He looks like one
Yeah.
of the Eels' better players. Like
100%. Yeah.
from the way the Eels have been playing, they've just been dreadful. But he's kind of been one of the only bright sparking points for the Eels. So I don't think he's in any risk of losing his spot. I think he keeps his spot, but it's just how well the Eels are going to store. How many attacking stats is he going to actually get? So yeah, it will be a big watch on him. But yes, happy to hold with him moving forward. So yeah, that was my week from last week. Ended up with the 1446, as we said, and got me back into a season rank of 6.4K. So it's always fun at the start of the year to be at the ones leading the pack rather than chasing the pack because we get to make the moves that kind of affect the others. And like, as I said last week, I was massive on Haas last week, and now everyone's kind of scrambling to get Haas this week. So yeah, it's always a lot better being the one to start the trend and getting in these players rather than following the pack and following the herd with the rest of them. So now moving on to Xavier, who this is awesome to see as well. You guys are all doing so well in the league. I'm already halfway down through the league, still can't see Zave. So here we are. So we got Zave last
Yeah.
week with a 1320 and an overall rank of just outside the top 30K. So yeah, if you want to kind of talk us through a little review of your team and how you went last week, mate.
Yeah, mate. Look, I was at the start of the week. I thought I was on for an absolute cracker of a week. I was pretty impressed with everyone. Pakes playing him over Smith, I was always doing that, as we touched on. Smith against the Panthers, so I can't be too mad at that. May and Horsburgh are very solid. Hopgood, massive letdown again. I just can't believe how dreadful the Eels are. He just seems to be on defense the whole time. No issues at all with his minutes. He's just the Eels are just on the back foot defending all the whole time, and you only get 1 point every tackle, and they're just getting sliced up everywhere. So he's someone that I was considering trading out, but after the news with Dylan Lucas, I think I need to hold him. I'm not trading out either of them. I just need the depth in the side. I need to get out players that aren't going to be of any use to me. As you can see by my side here, there's a couple players there that aren't doing anything for me. Kane Bradley, who I captained or looped Ponga with, is one of them. And then you've got like Valmunga and Simpkin as well. So I just want a bit more depth. So Hopgood will be staying, but I'm not very impressed with what I've seen. He's also not freeing the arm up at all, really. White and Lucas, White's very solid, and I'm quite happy with him with the duel as well for his price. He's going to make some cash, and Lucas all over him. He looks unreal. It's just a bit sad to see with the injury. Gashevsky, he's someone that I traded in for Siwa Wong to free up cash because I wanted to go Matt Burden this week. I was so keen on the Burden play. And the week I trade him in, he does his MCL, and now he's out for 5 weeks. He was on 47 points after 27 minutes. He was looking in like he was in for a big score, and then he had the Eels coming up this week. I thought it was a huge pod play. I thought, I still do believe that play was the right play, and I was, it's just the injury. You can't help injuries in Supercoach, and I just copped the bad end of the stick there with that trade in. But yeah, I thought Burden was definitely going to turn up in that game for sure. So it's very unfortunate. Now I've got to trade him out. Clearing Hines, no complaints there. Metcalf, very happy I held. And the rest of the side's we've pretty well touched. Oh, sorry, Reece Walsh.
I was about to say I see a big 9 in here for
That
someone with.
guy. Oh man, I was so keen on starting with him in the preseason. And he had the worst game I've ever seen him play in the NRL. And everyone everyone's going to have bad games. It's the nature, and especially in a position like fullback, you're under the spotlight all the time. And especially Reece Walsh, he's playing at one of the biggest, most prestigious clubs in the NRL, and he is one of the main faces of the NRL as well. And unfortunately, because he had a game like not his best game, it's everyone's sort of talking about it at the moment. I'm definitely holding, but yeah, geez, he just had an off day, a really off day. That game, and I'm hoping it can have a big bounce back against a really weak defensively Cowboys outfit this weekend at home. First home game for the season for the Broncos. So I'm definitely holding him. Yeah, that's sort of how my week panned out. I've got 13-20 for the week, which isn't too bad. I looped Ponga, which I'm very happy I did after seeing Cleary score. I definitely gained some points there. It's just the main letdowns for me were Reece Walsh, 100%. He got 9. He dropped out. And because I had looped, I also copped 18-point AE. So I had some really low scores with that. And then I opted to play Purdue over Hubner. I lost maybe 15 points. So I'm not too mad about that. I just went for the upside play there. But yeah, Reece Walsh really killed me. Reece Walsh and having the AE, because I thought Walsh was at least going to get like a good 50, 60 points. He got 9, which meant I copped an AE as well. But overall, not too many, not too bad of a week. A bit filthy about the Burden injury. Obviously, if you started with him, it hurts less than someone like me who brought him in as a bit of a pod play. It was looking really good. 47 points in 27 minutes, and then he goes and does his MCL, and he was about to play the Eels as well. So, yeah, not ideal, but that's where the side's sitting. Do you want to go through trades now, and then we can go back to your trades, or do you want to go through team list first?
Yeah, we'll do team list first, definitely. But that is just the way coach goes sometimes. It's just a bit unlucky, isn't it? Like the bloke you bring in just gets injured straight away. So obviously it's a long season, so I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll happen to every single one of us throughout the season. But yeah, that's just obviously not ideal, but you can't do much with it. You just got to improvise, adapt, overcome sort of thing. And then just on Walshy, yeah, like that was definitely the worst game I think I've ever seen him play. That was one of the worst games I think I've ever seen an NRL fullback play. Like he was dreadful. Like every time he got the ball, his passes were off. He made that many errors. Passes were touching the ground, going out. Like it really wasn't a good game. So I don't know what's happening with him or Canberra or whatever it was. I'm happy to write it off as just a game sort of thing. But this was kind of the reason why I didn't really start with Walsh, because obviously we know he has all that attack and everything in him. It's just that base. And we're in a game where he relied on solely base apart from one line break assist to end up on 9 points is just abysmal. So yeah, definitely happy to I've not started with Walsh right now. And yeah, like my trade in last week, Haas scored more points in offloads than Walsh scored overall. So like
Yeah.
plenty to go forward. But with your score last week, you still got pretty good greens though, didn't you? You'd like
Yeah,
halved your rank sort
I
of thing.
halved my rank. Yeah, I was at 60K and I've halved it down to 30, which is all right. I'll take that. And I guess another thing with Walsh is that, obviously I paid big money for him, but it would have hurt a lot more if Yongi did do well, and he didn't, thankfully, because he's in about 70% of teams, and that's who everyone else had and played against the Tigers. So it could have been a lot worse. Walsh, obviously, at that price makes it a lot easier. Part of the reason I did go to the triple gun is so I can move around better. I don't have to go looking for cash to upgrade. So I can, if Pap looks good, if whoever looks good in fullback, Kinney, Drinkwater, all these other options, it's a very easy switch for me. Obviously, I'm definitely holding Walsh this week against the Cowboys at home, but yeah, that just an ideal score altogether. And yeah, the injuries to Burden and now Lucas, yeah, put me in a bit of a rough spot. That being said, though, I did trade out Hosking in order to get Burden, and Hosking's broken his hand, so it seems like I'm a bit of a bad luck injury charm, starting with everyone that gets injured. But at least I got away from that one because I traded Hosking out early, and now everyone's got to trade him out anyway because he's fully out. So no complaints. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes with SuperCoach, and you just got to power on and stick strong.
Exactly that, mate. So yeah, as we kind of said, like it's still so close this start of the year. So yeah, Xavier with a 1320 halved his rank, and yeah, me with the 1450 did more than that. Just it's still so just really don't get too caught up in where you're ranked early doors. Obviously, you want to be higher than lower, but until about round 5, when the dust has settled, I wouldn't buy too much into the ranks. So that kind of covers the review now. We'll be moving on to a bit of a recap of TLT and we'll just kind of discuss the main talking points. But just before we get stuck into that, I've got some merch here from Sangster and from SuperCoach HQ. So I ended up winning a competition and I've got two SuperCoach signed balls from Tom Sangster and Corey Parker. So obviously you heard me right in saying I got two balls. So in saying that, I think we're going to give one away. We're going to give one away. So
Awesome, mate.
to whoever wins the league this year, if this episode gets 50 likes, 50, now that is a massive ask. We've got 57 subscribers. So we need 50 likes. So if every subscriber likes this video and we get 50 likes, the winner of our league will be getting a Supercoach Paul signed by both Tom Sangster and Corey Parker. So that's a good bit of initiative for you guys to like the videos and to also do well in the league. Obviously, if me or Xavier win it, it'll just go into second for one of the non-contributors sort of thing. So yeah, just a bit of engagement for you guys. That could be some
Oh, geez,
awesome
mate.
merch.
I was keen on the ball.
Oh, well, you got to start moving up the ranks first, mate. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it
it,
should be
eh?
good. It should be good for you guys to get involved. 50 likes on this video. If we get 50 likes, I will be giving this ball away to the winner of our league at the season's end. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe then, guys, and also share this video to your mates if you want a free Supercoach ball signed. Anywho, moving on now to a bit of a TLT review from Teams List Tuesday. So we got our first game of the night this week, being the Storm and the Panthers. Absolute cracker on Thursday night. We'll just touch on sort of the main talking points here. So obviously Nas is listed among the reserves and he's looking to return from his 5-game ban. That cost him and probably cost Storm the grand final last year. And the only change to Bellyache's team is Warbrick is concussed and is replaced by Grant Anderson. So anything you want to touch on the Storm there, Zave?
No, all pretty stock standard there, mate. Definitely do disagree with the comment that Nelson cost them the grand final last year. They could have done with him for sure, but Panthers rolled them. I don't think having Nelson in there would have changed anything. But if he does come in, I assume it would be for Valepu and the 17 jumper. But yeah, nothing really to touch on from the Storm side of things at all.
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on. So obviously the Storm have only played one game, so they're not going to rise in price this week. So you need to have played 3 games first before you will rise in price. So there's not that much rush to buy Storm players this week, but the players that I will certainly be keeping an eye on this game is Eli Katoa, Munster, and Pappenhausen. I'm
Yeah.
really, really keen on Pappenhausen. He looked unreal in his first game. I kind of tinkered with Turbo to Pappy this round, but obviously the news Turbo has been named. Spoiler alert. And so I think I'll just hold off with that trade this week, especially with the Storm playing the Panthers. But yeah, those are kind of my watching points for the Storm moving forward.
That's it, mate. I think you can add Harry Grant and potentially even Jack Howarth into that as well. But yeah, those three you touched on are definitely the main guys, and then Grant and Howarth as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Now, moving on to the Panthers for this week, they've obviously lost Dylan Edwards to a groin injury, which sees Dane Laurie take over at fullback and Schneider join the bench. Isaiah Papali, that is your boy. He returns from his injury and is got a bench spot this week. So, anything you want to talk about from the Panthers side? Anyone you're interested in who's on the chopping block? Anything here?
No, not really, mate. It's pretty same thing, pretty much what we expected. I do want to say though that I have seen and heard things that Casey McLean will not line up this week on the wing, and that Tom Jenkins is actually going to come in. So just if you are a McLean owner, keep an eye out for that because There is a bit of word coming out of the Penrith camp or floating around on socials at the moment that Jenkins could potentially come in and in place of Casey McLean. Jack Cole, however, is going to keep his six jumper after not having the best game last week. But yeah, that's about it from my side of things, mate. Not really too much to touch on in terms of changes.
Yeah, and as Xavier mentioned there, with McLean possibly being able to drop out, the good thing for McLean owners is it's the first game of the week, so you're gonna get the final team list before sort of any of the other games have kicked off, so you can kind of adapt if he does, for instance, get dropped. I think it would be a bit harsh, but his defense wasn't great last week, so kind of just depends how Ivan's wanting to approach this game. But yeah, apart from that, I did have a bit of a keen eye on Dane Laurie because we know he's an absolute gun when he gets the time, and obviously with this Dylan Edwards injury, he has piqued my interest a little bit as a massive pod play, but apparently the injury is only going to be a couple sort of weeks, and I'm just not willing enough to, especially go down from a turbo to take a risk on Laurie just for him to drop out in 2 weeks' time back to the 14th. So yeah, I do like the Laurie pod play if you, for whatever reason, have that option available. But yeah, I do want to note also, To'o got 30, I think it was 34 or 36 points last week with a try. So that was massively underwhelming. So if you started with To'o for whatever reason, I think he, I think he's in a good spot being on the right edge for the Panthers, but his base was just down massively. Now it could just be the first game back jitters, could be working way back from his injury, but yeah, hopefully for us super coaches and for those that don't own, he puts out a couple more of these lower scores, and we can pick him up in a couple rounds around that 500k, low 600k price.
Yeah, mate. Like as we touched on in preseason a little bit, and as I said, back then with the centre wings, To'o just doesn't really have the base that he once did, it seems, in Supercoach. Obviously he's in a great team, but he's just not doing it as well as he did. And I think it's generally down to teams that play the Panthers kicking away from him or trying to keep him out of the yardage zone because he is so effective there. Yeah, he's just not racking up the meters that he once did, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. Then again, it was a bit of a weird game. Like Isaiah Yeo got sub 40 as well, who's also a super coach going over 730k. And yeah, he disappointed a bit last week after having a cracking 1-1. So keen bit of an eye on those two and seeing how they go at their price tags. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for mentioning that. That was who else I did want to mention. Just, yo, as you mentioned there, 40 points last week for a renowned gun. Like I'm pretty sure it's one of his lowest scores where he's played the whole game since like 2021. So I definitely
Yeah.
think as an outlier, definitely hold. I would not be selling Yo. If you decided to start with Yo, I'd be sticking strong with him. But yeah, it was a bit of an outlier game because I don't really know what happened. I think the Panthers just sort of scored early doors and just thought, oh yeah, we're going to roll them. And then the Roosters just kept turning up. So yeah, massive congratulations to the Roosters there. Moving on, we also have the Roosters again. So we got the Wars and the Roosters in our first game of the Friday night at 5 p.m. We'll do the Warriors first. No changes here. No changes to the Warriors. The
No.
only change is Laban, who's we've kind of spoke about a lot in the preseason. We rated him highly. He's moved into 18th man, but apart from that, they're 1 to 17. Anyone you want to touch on or discuss there, Zave?
No, obviously really stoked on Metcalf. And I think someone to touch on though is Wade Egan. I did mention him in the preseason. He's playing 80 minutes at hooker, and he, with Sean Johnson gone, is actually a focal point of our attack. And he had such a good game. He turned up last week, and I know a lot of people are having a look at Starling and Marmazelis, which is fair enough. But for 190k more, or only 150k more than Starling, you can get Wade Egan, who I've actually got a lot more faith in that because we know he's going to play 80 minutes. If he doesn't get concussed, he's easily worth the price he's at right now. I feel pretty good about Egan as a bit of a pod play. It's just such a low priority position, I feel like. That's why not many people are trading out their hookers, but I think he looks phenomenal. So he's the main guy from the Warriors as a bit of a pod buy that I would be interested in. The rest, pretty stock standard.
Yeah, I think you've nailed that. I love that call as well. As we did sort of mention in the preseason there, Wade Egan has sort of become that guy. And yeah, like if we see a bit more of this from Wade Egan, he could be one of the best top two hookers this year. Obviously, hooker this year doesn't seem to be that strong a position and kind of, as you mentioned, a bit of low priority. But if you wanted to lock in someone who does have that upside, as we've kind of just seen last week, then Egan could be your guy at sub 500k. So yeah, love that shout. The only one I'll touch on here as well is obviously Roger. Now, he's been interesting. So he's obviously scored like decently well back to back weeks, 70 odd first week, 60 odd last week, but he has had 2 tries. So I think I'm not quite sure what it is, if it's still the Warriors getting their gel back or his work rate just isn't there to start the season. But he's an experienced campaigner. He's an absolute veteran and legend of the game. So I have no doubt with him moving forward. But yeah, I would like to see a bit more of an increase in just sort of attacking, not attacking stats, more so
Just
like
base more
attacking work
runs.
rates. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially in their own half. That's kind of where I locked in. I thought 40 to 50 points, and it's definitely on that lower end of those 40 points with that. But yeah, I
that's it,
think
mate.
that pretty much covers the Warriors. Moving on now to the Roosters, the impressive Roosters from last week, and they've got 3 big ins this week. So we see Lindsay Collins, Spencer Leniu, and Radley all return into the starting side. So this obviously is a stronger team now for sure on paper for the Roosters. Any comments, any interest here apart from Teddy, kind of, Xavier?
Teddy's a massive one. As we said with the draw, Connor Watson looked phenomenal. I wouldn't. No, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be buying him though, but I'm a bit cautious with Radley coming back in and playing at lock. How that goes, because obviously we've seen Watson fill in at hooker and then he moves to lock. If he does it as much, or if he's going to be more in the hooking role, or if it affects his minutes at all, because he's still got Docker Clay on the bench too. I would assume it doesn't affect much because Watson is one of their best players and they need him on the park. They need him playing big minutes. But yeah, just be a bit interesting to unfold. And I think just a bit of uncertainty there is enough to sort of, and other priorities elsewhere is enough to sort of throw me off him. Other guys, it's good to see Nafahu White still starting. And someone to keep an eye out for is Blake Steep, actually as a cheapie. 232k as well. That guy, he's got some serious potential, this kid. He's an absolute workhorse. I would much prefer him on my side over, say, a Krzyzewski, who I just bought in, or a Valmunga, who I'm trading out this week. He's just got it, you know. He's got a good super coach game. It's just be interesting to see the minutes, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. And then Billy Smith on the extended bench is a big one, because that center spot occupied by Mark at the moment is supposed to be Billy's on the left hand side, but Mark was one of the best players last week, so I don't know how you drop him or how that all unfolds. But yeah, a couple of things to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, Trent Robertson will definitely have his a decision on his hands, I suppose, because I know Billy Smith played in Cup last weekend and he scored a try, got a line break, bunch of tackle busts. So he's looking good, and obviously he is the preferred guy, but it's just how or who do you drop here, and then where do they go? So yeah, it
Well,
will be
both Mark and Rob have
interesting.
been playing well, you know, so it's yeah, if they're going to drop anyone, it's honestly got to be Dom Young, and you chuck Mark to a wing. I think, based on performance and effort, I think Rob and Mark have tried their hearts out, and Dom Young a lot of the time has shown that he just lacks a bit of effort. Doesn't like the contact, makes silly calls, and but he's also the most talented and probably the best player. Oh, not probably, he is the best player of the lot. But who knows what can happen? We saw Jeremiah Nanai get dropped for lack of effort. So see how things unfold there. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely a watch on weight, especially even if Billy Smith comes in, because as we kind of mentioned, 3 games before their prices change. So there's definitely no rush to bring him in. And especially a bloke who's so injury prone as well. So definitely hold off there. But it is a good one to keep an eye on. The last one I want to kind of touch on here, it is sort of as you mentioned, Wong has kept his edge spot and Radley is in at lock. So obviously, if you've got Wong, you're very happy, but I wouldn't be buying just at this point because we just don't know how the minutes are going to work. But if he ends up getting 80 minutes again on the edge, I think he comes into calculations.
Yeah, man, I sold Wong. I really hated what I saw from him in the first week. He played like 70 minutes and did absolutely nothing, and I didn't like what I saw at all in terms of work rate. It seemed as though nothing had changed, and then last week he comes out and busts out 70 in base. So um, I wouldn't be buying him just because who knows what this rotation is going to be like, and if he plays 80. But geez, if he held, I wish I did now. Yeah, I definitely wish I did. You're sitting happy. I would be a bit nervous about playing him. Though that's the thing, because you're paying a bit more than the cheapy price, and you just don't know what you're going to get from him. Like as I said, he got 28 points in the first week, and then last week gets 70. So I can't really make sense of that.
Yeah,
Um,
just quickly on that. Are you playing Nafu White this week? How many minutes do you think he's going to get with this bench?
I think his minutes just stay the same. He doesn't take up a lot of minutes. Nafahu White. I think he hovers around about 50 minutes. That's all he needs. He obviously with Radley and Lenu back. Lenu's not a big minute prop. Radley is big minutes. But the guys on the bench, you got Lindsay Collins who decent minutes, but I think I can't see Nafahu White playing any less than 40 minutes, for example. So I think he should be safe for about a 40 to 50 score at worst.
Interesting, because yeah, he's definitely someone I'm sort of eyeing up selling. Well, was eyeing up selling before we got this Dylan Lucas injury news, just to sort of fund some other moves. But yeah, interesting to see there. Moving on now to our second game of Friday night. This will be an absolute cracker at Suncorp, as it always is. We've got the Broncos and the Cowboys. We'll go through the Broncos first. So Staggs is listed amongst the reserve and he's closing in from his return from this quad injury. And from all late mail reports, he is really firming in for this spot. Now, obviously, all the preseason talk was that Shibasaki has locked in his center spot and it'd be Mariner, the one to go. But Mariner's played really good. And especially last week, Mariner was probably one of their
One of
better
the best players.
players.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
one of the better players for the Broncos. So I really hope we get at least this week out of Shibasaki, and moving forward that Shibasaki does hold his spot. But it is something I just wanted to sort of mention and note to you guys that he might be losing this spot, unfortunately. But apart from that, that pretty much covers my thing. Obviously, Haas is going to get good minutes again, I think. And Gusevsky, obviously, there was a bit of talk before TLT came out that he was going to be benched or he was going to be dropped from the squad altogether. Now he's kept his starting spot, so no issues, no rush, no concern from me on my end. It will be now we saw in the first week he got 80 minutes. Last week he got half that. He got hooked just after half time for Piacora. So we're hoping for a bit more minutes this week. I'm hoping for at least 60 minutes. Otherwise, he might be someone I have to move on shortly. But at the moment, especially while he's starting, no concerns for me there. How about you, Zave? Any thoughts or comments on that Broncos side?
No, exactly the same as you, mate, with Gachevsky and the concerns there. He's still got a negative BE. He'll make some cash, and we bought him basically for the purpose of freeing up cash and generating cash. So yeah, obviously not too pleased about wasting a trade, but I don't think it's the end of the world at the end of the day. Um, yeah, nothing really much to add there. We can move on to the Cowboys, who have made a couple of changes, as we can see there. Braden Burns is out, and we've got a cheapie coming in for him, Rob Darby. I'm not too sure how keen you would be on a cheapie for this side and how bad they've looked, to be honest. But we'll take it. And as moving on from Shibasaki, if Shibasaki is dropped, could just drop him down to Robert Darby if he holds his spot. See how we go. Um, Tamalolo's a big inclusion for them, and then obviously they've got Nanai back on the bench. And Duffy's been dropped, which is probably the main talking point. That's a huge omission. I think it's a bit rough on the young kid. It's not his fault that his forward pack are getting absolutely dominated in the middle, and he's playing on the back foot the whole time. Potentially, it's just a call because they're playing at Suncorp on the big stage. Derby game. to have someone that's a bit more experienced there in the half spot. But yeah, if you started with Duffy, definitely be looking to trade him on now, with how poor the Cows have looked, and now that he's not even named. So that's a huge omission, and it's something that we've managed to sort of escape.
Yeah, as you sort of mentioned in the preseason, neither of us were really like we didn't mind Duff, like we thought he was good and whatnot, but with all these sort of concerns, especially one being job security and two being we just much preferred lock in Nico and Cleary to start the year. That sort of strategy is looking to have won in the end, especially with Duffy being dropped completely from the 17 now. I really don't see him getting his spot back in the team. He already lost the goal kicking duties to Drinky, as we sort of saw, and yeah, he didn't take control of the game. He didn't take his chances. So he's obviously it's probably a bit harsh on him, but someone has to go, and he wasn't leading the boys around the park, and so it'll be interesting to see how Jake Clifford goes this weekend. But apart from that, that covers all the Cowboys talk there. Purdy obviously scored 35 on the weekend with a try and also a sin bin. So look, it's not great. He doesn't look great, but then again, the Cowboys don't look great. So I don't know. It's definitely not a priority sell, but if you
No,
need to get
no.
one of these other center wing guys, he would be the one I'd be selling.
Yeah, depends what your structure is with him, but I definitely do not think he's a trade out. It's similar to Royce Hunt, for example. It's someone that's just there in a front row spot, taking up space. He's not really gonna looking like making good cash at all. He's just sitting there. But if you need to free up a spot, for me, like if Royce Hunt, for example, he's in a front row forward four position, then it's less likely that you're going to have to trade him out. But the reason why people are trading Purdue out is because center wing is where a lot of cheapies are and a lot of great options are. So no, I'm going to say I'm a bit against that trade, because the Cowboys have looked dreadful. He's retained his spot. All he needs is a week or two of scoring a double in a row, and then he's set to make some cash more often going again. He's 250K. It's just not worth trading someone that's playing in a back line that can score a double or a try any given week, make some cash, and then you can move him on. But I wouldn't be selling before he's even done his job as a cheapie, and he's still held his spot. I don't think that's the play, and I'm quite surprised that a lot of people are.
Yeah, so just to rebuttal that, I'm pretty sure he's one of the most, if not the most, traded out player this week, obviously after Duffy. And I really do think it's just because, well, firstly, he hasn't looked good at all. But secondly, we do, as you mentioned, we just have so many cheapy options in center wing this year. And just with the structures and everything, a lot of people don't really have anyone else to sell. Like I would, out of all the players, say out of Shibasaki, out of Tamale, out of Arthurs, out of who else do we have? Out of Toya, like I would prefer all these guys before Purdue for sure.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I'm in the same boat there. It's just, yeah, it depends on team makeup. For me, I've got a spare spot there. But say if you started with like quite heavy in the center wing, and then you had Toya, Tamale, and Toya, Tamale, and like Arthurs or someone else in the center wing, then I can see why you would want to move him on. But yeah, as I said, I don't think it's quite worth it. I think you better off doing trading other people out.
Good stuff there. Moving on to the first game of Super Saturday this week, we've got just quickly actually, we'll do the tips. So the first game, Panthers Storm.
Storm, but geez, like I think the Panthers line is like, oh, I'll get it up now. I'm very interested to see what that is. Um,
Yeah, well, Xavier's checking it. I know they're over $3, the Panthers, and that's probably
that's
one of the longest odds
outrageous.
I've seen, especially with a full strength squad. Like there's no
Jeez,
origin or anything. What's the line?
have a guess, mate. Have a guess.
12 and a half.
9.5 points.
Yeah.
So betting on the Panthers. What do we think the Panthers are going to lose by 10? Like I can't remember the last time I've seen them lose by 10 points. To be honest,
Should
if
be a
anyone's going to
it'll be
do
a
it, it's a
cracker.
Storm at home though. To
Hmm.
be fair, and without Edwards, but I can't. can't put that much disrespect on the Panthers name to be honest. But I'm going to tip the Storm. But geez, I think the bookies might have gotten a bit wrong there. I would be all over that line. Personally, I trust the Panthers to not lose by more than 10.
Yeah, I don't think I would be touching the line in this game, but I do think the Storm will win, especially being at home as well. But yeah, expect an absolute bounce back from the Panthers. I don't think they've lost back-to-back games in like 46 matches or something ridiculous while Cleary's been playing. So that's a long-standing record, but the Storm are the one to kind of, if there were anyone to beat them this week, it
It's
would be the
Storm at Amy
Storm.
Park. Yeah,
Yeah, on a
like
Thursday
that's the
night.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Friday game. This is a very close game. The Wars and the Roosters. Who are you tipping and by how much?
I'm a Wales fan, mate, but I'm going the Roosters in this, unfortunately. I know we look good at home. It's just one of those things. I've got a gut feel about this. We win games that we're not supposed to win, and we lose games that um, we lose games that we're supposed to win. Basically, it goes the other way, and I think everyone's touting us with a bit of expectation to win this game. We're slight favourites. Um, and that never in the past has worked out well for us. I think we do a lot better when there's zero expectation and the world's on our shoulders, sort of thing. I've just got a feeling the Roosters will win this one, so I'm tipping Roosters.
Yeah, this should be a good game. I think I might be tipping the Wars here, just at home again with the spine. Obviously, I hate the 6 and 7. I hate Sam Smith and Townsend for the Roosters. And I do kind of, as we saw last week, CHT and Metcalf finally start linking up and playing well. So yeah, I'll take the Wars in the first game of Friday night. The second game of Friday night, I don't think we need to really discuss at all. It'll be Bronx by the length of the straight, really. They should really pump the cows, but I would not be surprised if this is Todd Payton absolutely revving the boys up and we see a game with a lot of points, like a 40-20 sort of scoreline.
Nah, I can't see it. I think the Broncos, after the week last week, Madge is going to fire them up. First game at home at Suncorp. I think it's the Broncos are going to put on a cricket score, and I really hope they do. As a Reece Walsh owner, I think I'm banking on him having a big bounce back game this week at Suncorp.
Yeah, that's good. So now all moved up. Going on, we'll touch on the Sharks first. There has been no changes for the Sharks again this week. Kind of, they're doing well.
Nothing really
They're
to talk about there, mate. Yeah, well,
yeah. The only one I want to say is AFB. He saw a drop in minutes last week to just under 50. So I was keen on AFB if he got 60 plus minutes. My kind of strategy this year is to kind of load up on front row forward early doors and lock in some high scoring base players that will just more points. But with him playing under 50 minutes and with Sharks expected to win a lot of these games this year, there's just no reason for him to play 60 minutes. So I do have your Haas, your Terrell Mays, even Tino, and possibly even Horse. No, actually, I wouldn't have Horse above AFB, but I'd have the other three, I think, ahead of AFB just because, yeah, I don't see how he gets the minutes this year in that side. But of course, an attacking player, he will get attacking stats, no doubt, throughout the season. Just, yeah, starting with him or moving to him now, I would kind of pivot and go to one of these other guys if you're in the market for a front row forward. But yeah, that kind of covers my talk with the Sharks. Obviously, actually, there has been some rumors flying Hines hasn't been kicking or training, or Trindle has been kicking and training. I'm not quite sure what the extent of it is, but I wouldn't get too worried. It is training. Like
yeah,
Trindle is the second kicker.
they're saying that Hines is suffering from a bit of a bad cork at the moment, and so he's not been goal kicking in training. And I assume that's why he also didn't goal kick in week one. I'm not too concerned. He's going to play. Obviously, we'd much prefer him as an owner to goal kick at home as well. Early on a Saturday playing the Rabbitohs. I think he's could be in for a lot of points. So we fingers crossed he goal kicks. But as an owner, I'm not too concerned about the injury itself.
Yeah, definitely. And as you kind of mentioned with the Bunnies game this week, who have lost sort of a few players, he is a big calculation for VC this week. It
100%.
does hurt if he isn't going to get the kicking tee, but if he does get it, that kind of would lock it in for me. So yeah, moving over to the Bunnies, we got a few changes in here. So Jack Wyden is back from suspension and returns in the centres, pushing Fletcher Myers out to the wing, and Harp drops out. We've got Ravalawa listed as 18th man, so he could be a little late inclusion. And obviously we've got Tallis Duncan in the squad now because Hubner is suspended for 2 weeks, which is a bit unfortunate for owners, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Definitely no need to sell or move on there. Any comments here for the Bunnies, mate?
No, I know a lot of people are bringing in Jamie Humphries, which is completely understandable. That guy's looked quite good, and as I said in the preseason, I was huge on him, starting over Lewis Dodd, and he's really taken his opportunity with both hands and played really well, and led the Bunnies to 2 victories to start the season, which no one really, I was not betting that, but they do come up against a really tough draw now. So I'll just say, if you're looking at buying him or going Duffy to him, have a look at the Bunnies draw. If you've got Sandon up at hooker, I probably would be going Starling and flicking Sandon to half over Jamie Humphries, just because you got Latrell back. When Latrell's back, Latrell's going to take the goal kicking off him, and you've also got a horrendous draw for the Rabbitohs. Latrell back also will take a lot of ball or attacking ball off him. So I think I would be looking at Starling over him, but completely understand the move there from a lot of owners. As far as the rest of the team goes, Jack Wyman back from a suspension, which is good to see. Hubner, unfortunately he's suspended, but he's looked good. Happy to hold. And yeah, Tallis Duncan obviously gets to start at lock. I actually didn't even know Ravalawa was at the Bunnies as well, so a bit nice to see him in the reserves. I was sitting there watching the Dragons game. I was like, "Where's Ravalawa?" Usually I'm all over that sort of thing and all the player movements, but I swear there's just been no talk about him. Like, when did he move to the Bunnies? When did anyone say anything about this? Did you know about that before?
Yeah, I did. There's been a few sort of quiet moves. Like even today, I know Molo left the Dragons I think it was last night or a couple nights ago, and it's been confirmed today he's signed to the Dolphins. So there's kind of been a few changes going on there. The only thing I'd want to touch on here with the Bunnies is kind of
Okay.
like, yeah, all good. Kind of like Xavier mentioned, Jamie Humphries, I would definitely be looking to temper expectations there because yeah, as they've got the tough draw coming up, he will be losing the kicking boots soon. So yeah, definitely temper expectations. And if you can afford it, and if you have the right jewels, I would 1,000% be doing Starling over Humphreys. But if you don't, I like it. I like the upgrade to a Humphreys. But for whatever reason, if you can afford an upgrade, I would like to go either all the way up to a Cleary or Hines, whichever one you don't own. But I know that will be a bit hard for owners.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that game. We're both tipping the Sharks.
But yeah, Sharks, mate.
All right, one of a closer game. This could be one of the games of the week, hopefully, potentially for us Tigers. We've got the Dolphins and the Tigers. Now, the Dolphins' first home game of the year. We'll touch on the Dolphins first, and there is not much to touch on. He's named the same 17 that lost to the Knights with Bostock and Finafuiaki both on the extended bench. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised at all if they are fit to go, if they come back into the starting side. If they do, Finafuiaki is definitely a bit of a watch for me. We kind of saw round one that he played good minutes
It
before he
looked
got
good,
that
yeah.
HIA. Obviously, who's the bloke that fractured his eye socket, the competition for his spot? Can't remember
It
his
was
name.
Connolly Lemielu.
Yes, Lemuelu. Lemuelu obviously still not back. So yeah, big watch on Finafuiaki if he comes back in. And if he kills it again, big trade consideration for next week. But apart from that, for the Dolphins, we kind of saw both Max Platt and Tom Gilbert come down a notch last week. It wasn't really a forward sort of game. Yeah, if you're a Gilbert owner like me, I would definitely be holding, and I would just be hoping that over the season we see an increase in minutes. And I'm sure that will happen. Just he's coming back from a long-term injury, so he'll just warm up, get back to it. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be worried about him. And then the same as Plath. Now I definitely wouldn't be moving to Plath now. I think this 50 score will be what his kind of basis for the year. But yeah, we've kind of seen that drop off from the ton in round one to the 50 last week, almost half in score, because even though he is an absolute goer, just on the edge, he doesn't get that much involvement compared to being in the middle. So yeah, Here's another one that I would be tempering expectations on here. But apart from that, that covers it for me. Any comments for you for the Dolphins, Dave?
Yeah, I think I'm, looking forward to seeing Jack Bostock back out there for the 2 games. Sorry, to anyone, if you're a junior Tupou friend or relative, but he has been so poor to start the season. That's the best I can say, honestly. He might redeem himself a bit this week against the Tigers, his old club. But geez, I've been so disappointed with how he's played. He's dropped a million balls. That first week, I can't remember who they played, but the Bunnies, I think.
Yeah.
I tipped the Dolphins, and he's dropped like 4 passes on the wing. So I think Bostock for sure comes in and takes that spot. Bostock's a good finisher, Junior Tupou just hasn't had a great start to the season. Other comments are Gilbert's super solid. I don't own him, but no way would I be looking at moving him. And 100% I would even be looking at him as a buy target as a non-owner. Like I'm still looking at him. He's just someone that's 460k and he's solid. He's the captain of the side. You know what you're going to get you're going to get at least 50 or around about there from him. His minutes can only go up. It's good to have those sorts of players in your team that you can just rely on. You get cop an injury, for example, Dylan Lucas, you could just plug him in. He's someone that you can hold long term and have faith in that. As for Max Plath, I disagree slightly with you though. I think Max Plath's I wouldn't be against people buying him at all. He got 49 in base, and he almost put the hammer over for a try assist, which got called back, and that would have been 80 points. And if that goes through as a try, we're sitting here talking about Plath as he's got 100, then he's got 80, playing 80 minutes in a team that's got belted. He's got a dual. I don't think there's much not to like about Plath at all. I think he's definitely worth his price. Worth his price tag if you did want to buy him. Other than that, though, mate, nothing too much. Obviously, interested in see if Finifuaki and Bostock come back in. But that's about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Moving on now to the Tigers. We've seen, so obviously there was a few reports that Buller had done his ankle. There was a foot injury or something against the Eels. He's been named, but Heath Mason is a part of the extended bench. But apart from that, we've stuck to the same 17 that beat not the Tigers, that beat the Eels last week. So yeah, anyone that I want to touch on here is first of all Truva. He got a hat trick last week and he scored a massive score, 120. Now, out of the wingers for the Tigers, I would be way more interested in Skelton personally. Skelton scored 65 on the weekend, and if he scored one more try, he was so close to scoring that try as well. He tons up. So
Yeah.
Skelton would be the winger from the Tigers I would be going for if I were to be going for one of the wingers there. I think Dewey, kind of as we mentioned earlier in the episode there, the goal kicking's locked in now. He's starting to find his feet again, and he's starting to look good, as is that Tigers sort of left edge. So yeah, definitely very happy to have and be holding and playing him there. We've obviously got Terrell May, just absolute monster, playing big minutes again. And then yeah, it's just a standard team. Obviously, Safehearth bounced back a bit last week with I think he got 49 points in the end. So look, if you own him, I think he is value for what you're paying for, but it's not that much value. And he's just not getting that much ball. So I just don't see the upside in him. So there's definitely no need to sell, but like if you're someone like me last week where someone needs to go, I completely get it if you're upgrading elsewhere. So yeah, apart from that, that covers me for the Tigers. Any thoughts or comments there, Zave?
Yeah, just Stafford Toa. Obviously playing his second week. He scored quite well last week. He's quite cheap. So just keep an eye out on him and his price wise because he's a definite target coming up for people looking to downgrade. Let's say Shibasaki gets dropped and makes a little bit of cash, or Jesse Arthurs has a stinker. He makes 100k, then we can flick him down and bank some profit. But Stafford Toa is someone to touch on there. And just want to say another thing. I just needed Jerome Buller to score for my multi on the weekend. He drops the ball over the line.
Did everything but score.
Yeah, bloody hell! Like it
So
was my
close.
the last leg, 25 into over $1,000, and let me down. But what can you do? That's footy. Bit filthy about that, but no more changes to that side or anything else really to touch on. I don't mind Alex Twell as well. At 420k, he's a bit of a pod. That's got dual as well, and he's been scoring solid. Like he's always been a bit of a solid scorer. But similar mold to say a Tom Gilbert, who a lot more people have their eyes on. They're just going to pump out solid scores for you, and you just need those sorts of guys in your side sometimes for a bit of depth, reliable, and good base. So Alex Twell's another interesting play that I feel like not a lot of people are talking about, but he's doing pretty good for what he's priced.
Yeah, good shout there. So I reckon this will be a really close game. So obviously Dolphins haven't won yet this year and Dolphins are at home, but I'm gonna stay strong and stay true to my team with the Tigs. So I'll be tipping the Tigers to win this. How about you, mate? How do you see this game sort of panning up?
Initial thought is Tigers, but I wouldn't be surprised if I change late before the game and go Dolphins. I think the Dolphins at home could maybe get their first win, but at the moment on Tigers.
Yep. Sounds good. Moving on to our final game of Saturday night, we have the Titans versus the Knights.
Geez, mate, we've got some live news.
Oh, geez, what's the live news? Am I going to like it?
Dane Laurie's out, and Tom Jenkins is playing fullback this week tomorrow night. So Tom Jenkins is, I don't know what he's priced at, but geez, that's very interesting. Obviously we mentioned that the rumors were circulating that Jenkins could come in, but we thought it was for McLean. But he's now on the official team list as coming in at fullback in place of Laurie.
Massive. Now he's 215k, 215k instead of wing.
You could get a fullback for 215k. So I don't know. That's interesting.
That is. So obviously that puts a sort of a line through all that Laurie talk earlier in the podcast. That's what you get for the podcast on Wednesday nights. We kind of get these live news and starting to get these reports on top of the team list. So yeah. Oh, there you go. Geez,
yeah,
I think that's bad for the Panthers though.
Yeah,
I
do
like the
too.
Storm a lot more now.
Forget what I said before about the line.
Yeah.
Just about that though. Obviously we've actually touched on. I didn't realize there were so many cheapies coming through, but you've got Robert Darby, you've got Jenkins potentially, and as we just touched on there, and Stafford Toa, so all centre wings. So all three guys definitely keep a bit of an eye on how they're going because huge downgrade opportunities there.
Yeah, I think Purdy might have to be moving on shortly out of your side.
Yeah.
So back to this last game of Saturday night, we have the Titans and the Knights. The Titans have stuck the same apart from AKP is out with a hammy injury, with Tony Francis coming in to play his third game. So what are your thoughts here with the Titans? Like, it was a bit of for me watching them, it was a bit of a mixed performance against the Dogs. I thought they definitely missed the jump, which I was expecting, especially because they didn't play round one, they had the bye. But there were glimpses in there, especially with someone like an AJ Brimson, who definitely caught my eye big time. Now, I wouldn't be moving to him, and as we've sort of mentioned, it's 3 games and they've only played 1 game, so you can definitely afford to just watch this week and see how they go. But who are you interested in here if you're interested in anyone?
Look, mate, I'm going to be honest. I watched every game on the weekend, and then I was watching this game, and then Burton, my trade-in, got injured, and I turned it straight off. I was filthy. I was absolutely filthy about that, so I didn't watch the rest of the game, but I obviously saw how Tino scored, and as a non-owner, definitely humongous interest in him. A key note to say about this side is obviously they're not going to go up in price this week, which is a bit of a part of the reason I've dismissed Tino. But yeah, Tino is definitely on my radar. Other people is Keanu Kinney as well. I'm not too sure how he looked, but I just love him as a player. And I think the Titans, they've got a good draw and an attacking side. And the other one is Jalen Campbell. So those would be the 3 guys I'm looking at. And obviously keen to see what they're doing with Fafita, because it's just outrageous that they're benching him and playing him 30 minutes. But Obviously, he's a bit underdone coming off surgery and injury. So he's likely, or more than likely, just getting eased into the season. Because there's no way someone like his quality should be playing 30 minutes a night. That's absolute garbage.
Yeah, exactly. I think it will be interesting to see how that does unfold. And for us super coaches, first of all, I was so close to starting with David Fafita. I'm just so happy I didn't start with him. But I think he's going to be massive value. And it's just as soon as he does go back into that starting spot, and if he does lock down 80 minutes again, I would be looking to move to him pretty quick, especially if he has dropped in price so much. I'd want to be kind of the pod play to get on him early doors. But yeah, it is interesting to see him play so little sort of thing. But yeah, as you sort of mentioned, he's coming off the off season with an injury and just working his way back into it. So if you have him, obviously you got to sell him. Like I don't think you can hold him at this point, but I wouldn't be too entirely worried as a whole for the Titans. I agree with Tino. Look, he looked unreal. He mauled work. He was in absolutely everything, and he also got a try. Like he's going to be massive for the Titans this year. He pretty much got the Titans on his back and tried to carry it. I do want to touch on Bo Fermor quickly. He got 68 in base pretty much, and he looked great. He is also another one of these blokes, like similar to a Dylan Lucas, that has that dual flexibility in center wing as well as second row. So he is definitely someone I've got a keen eye on and a keen watch on as a bit of a pod watch there. But yeah, apart from that, we sort of mentioned Brimo and Campbell and Kinney all watched
Yeah,
for me this week, and we'll kind of see how they go moving forward.
100%,
Now,
mate. I do like that Firma shout. And just quickly as well, some more live mail.
oh,
We've just had, as we sort of predicted, Nelson on the reserves. He's come into the side, and Varlepu has dropped out, which is sort of what we predicted. So I think, yeah, that Storm line might be
out
being
to
pushed out a
12
bit
going
now.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be betting Panthers 13 plus now, I reckon. Not Panthers, sorry, Storm.
Storm.
If Panthers win
Yeah, I was
13
gonna say,
plus,
mate.
something's
Yeah.
got to be going wrong. Yeah, I reckon Storm win 13 plus now. There you go. You get it all, guys. The live updates.
Geez, the line's come in, mate, to 8.5.
Hammer it. Are we hammering it? Eight and a
Yeah.
half. I reckon that's good value now. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, Anywho, back onto this game. Over to the Knights now. We've got a few changes here with prop Leo Thompson and KPP out. We see Brodie Jones coming into the front row and Adam Elliott starting at lock. We've also seen Thomas Kant on the bench now coming in. Anyone you sort of want to touch on here? I know the Knights have the bye next week, which is unfortunate. And obviously, as we sort of alluded to earlier on the podcast, all reports are Dylan Lucas will be out for this weekend. So there'll be a few more changes to come to this side. But yeah, what are your thoughts here? Any thoughts on him?
I definitely think if you don't own any Knights players, you just got to stay firm. Even if I didn't have Ponga right now, I decided not to start with Ponga. I physically couldn't bring him in this week just because of the bye um, next week. So I wouldn't be looking at any Knights players as buys. Keen eye players for me. Fletcher Sharp, 100%. That kid's phenomenal. He's such a good player. Really, really rate that guy, and I rate him as a buy too. So as I said, as much as I wouldn't be looking at buying any Knights players this week because of the buy, Fletcher Sharp is someone I'm definitely considering or having a look at to see how he goes, maybe after the buy, shifting onto him. With the Dylan Lucas news, I think it's pretty set in stone that Thomas Kant will go to the edge, and then they'll bring one of these guys from the reserves up, probably Tyrone Thompson, I would say, would come in, and Thomas Kant would go to the edge in place of Dylan Lucas, would be my guess. So nothing really there. My tip in this one is actually the Titans.
Yeah, I agree with you now. So before all of this Dylan Lucas news, I was pretty big on Captain Ponga and the Knights, but they've lost a bit of go forth now, especially with Leo Thompson and KPP out already before this sort of injury news. So yeah, I'd agree with you. I think the Titans at home, they'll be up for a bounce back. Now, I also see a lot of points in this game, but yeah, I think I might have to reconsider the captaincy options, which we'll get into later in the podcast episode. But yeah, I'll go with you there as well. The Titans to win that one in a high-scoring, close game, I reckon.
Yeah.
Moving on to our Sunday game, our first game of Sunday. This is the favorite card of the day, the Sunday ticket. We've got the
Yeah.
Eels and the Bulldogs. So for the Eels, they've got a few changes. Here we see Volkman dropped and he's been replaced by the Bunnies' former half Dean Hawkins. We also see the Fox possibly coming in as well as Ryan Madison, 18th man. Now I'm pretty sure from all late mail reports, it is pretty much confirmed almost that Addo will be making his Eels debut on the weekend on the wing.
Against his old club.
And yeah, against exactly right. His old club there. So the only talking sort of points here I want to touch on for the Eels is Jack Williams. Jack Williams is someone I had a little bit of interest in the preseason, but after watching the first two games, I think he is a goer, but the Eels just look so bad, man. Like they are abysmal. So I
Yeah.
couldn't. I would be looking to sell him, even if you have him. There are better options out there. I think he's not a bad player or not bad value, but yeah, I would just be looking to move him on. Same as Dylan Brown. I think he's just looked terrible. I think he's signed his contract now and is no longer got that fire in his belly that he needs to perform well for the Eels, or he's playing for a contract. He signed his $10 million deal or his 14, $13 million 10-year deal. So yeah, if I had Dylan Brown, I think I would be looking at moving him on. Obviously, if you didn't have any trade or other burning issues there. And then yeah, obviously Aongi, I'll be holding strong there. How about you, Zave? Any thoughts on that Eels side?
Yeah, as we said, the Eels look dreadful. They really need Moses back desperately. They're lacking a lot of direction, his kicking game as well. Dylan Brown's not a seven. Um, but we can only do what we got at the moment at Para. So I'm a Hopgood owner, and I'm definitely not. Well, I'm definitely all for selling him. He's, as we said, that he's just making tackles and that's it. For me, though, I'm not trading him this week purely because I want to get some other things right. But and I've got injuries to deal with, like Dylan Lucas and Burden both injured. I don't have Arthurs and I don't have Tamale, so something's got to give. I've just got higher priority things with, unfortunately, a bit of a rocky start on the injury front. So, but definitely all for going Hopgood to Haas. I don't think that's a backwards trade at all. I think that's definitely a valid trade, and it's a very popular one at the moment. So, just not one that I'm unfortunately not doing at this stage. Um,
Yeah,
Other
I
than that,
definitely agree. I reckon
yeah,
that's if you got Hopgood and you don't have LFIs, that Hopgood to Haas for 10K or whatever it is, I would be locking that in for sure.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, unfortunately, I got other fires, so can't quite do it. And I'll be holding Hopgood, hoping he can show a bit of something. He's got the minutes, he just can't do anything at the moment. Same as Jack Williams.
So you can obviously tell we're not big on the Eels, and I think anyone watching the Eels, I think Eels fans themselves would be pretty low on their hopes this year. They really don't look good. So yeah, as you sort of
Are
mentioned,
you,
they're waiting on Moses big time for him to come back.
are you playing Yongi this week? Bit of a question for you as an owner.
No. So obviously I've got a bit more depth now, and especially I was bringing in a bunch of other center wings in Arthurs and Tamale, but now obviously the trades haven't do. So my initial thoughts and my initial reaction is no, I'm not playing Aongi because I have a stronger other reserves, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed to playing Aongi if my reserves suddenly look weaker now because of this Lucas injury. But yeah, that covers it for the Eels. You happy with that?
Yeah, happy with that, mate.
Yeah. Moving over to the doggies now. So obviously the loss of Matty Burden as well as Kikau to knee injuries. We see Blake Howard, the bit of the versatile Milner, jump in at 5'8" and
Blake
still
Haywood.
yeah, Blake Hayward, Mark Hayward. Who's that bloody teacher in school? Big Mark Hayward. Shout out Mark Hayward if you're watching.
Yeah. Lindsay
Um,
House, eh?
yeah, serious. The house team. We see Stilly Tupanua gets his start in the back row. So obviously he killed it round one, back to reality really round two, but he now gets a starting spot with Cacao out for a bit of time. So for me, for the Dogs, he is someone that does interest me. Now, it's not at a great price point at 435k. I think I would prefer either paying up more for, say, a Gilbert or down more for a Nicholson, who we'll get into later. But yeah, he's definitely a watch. If you brought him in last week, I think you kissed on the dick a bit, luckily, there. And he's now, I think he should be with this bench locked in for 80 minutes on that edge. So yeah, if you're an owner, like it. Don't know if I would be buying personally, but I can definitely see the appeal there. I think the Dogs are going to take it back, are going to drop down a couple levels with those outs, especially Burden. Like, I think he is so big for the Dogs. His kicking game, he just gets them out of trouble. His boots, his attacking kicks, he is sort of the center point of their attack for the Dogs. So yeah, I think there's definitely a decent enough game for the Eels. You could have said the same thing last week against the Tigers, but yeah, we'll get into tips just after you comment on it, but I'm still tipping the Dogs. I think the Dogs should still win this. But yeah, that's sort of the only talking points that interest me in the Dogs. How about you, mate?
Yeah, I've got really nothing there. Obviously, the Burden and Kikau injuries are huge losses because that left edge is actually one of their main strike weapons and where they go to an attack. So they've lost a lot of power there. I don't mind Satilli as a buy at all. I had a bit of a look at him too. Obviously, he put out that big score in round one. He's got a bit of a juicy break even at the moment and will make some good cash. And now he's got the starting spot locked in for 5 weeks or so. But yeah, not really too much there. I'm tipping the Dogs in this one. Can't possibly back the Eels after what I've seen from them.
Definitely, definitely agree there, mate, for sure. Moving on now to our final game of the round, we have the Seagulls and the Raiders. And of course, it is the final game of the round where we have to wait all weekend to see if Tommy Turbo will play. But we'll start with the Seagulls. Obviously, both Turbo and Daly Cherry Evans, the sort of major injury points and concerns, have both been named
Yeah.
to play. We see Cooler return after missing round two with the corked thigh, and Takiako is back on deck. So Josh Aioli reverts to the bench, and Sipley drops out. Talau is also listed at 18th man. So yeah, talking points here. Olakwatu, bit of back to reality for owners. So we kind of seen he does possess that attacking stats, no doubt, which we saw in round one and can easily ton up. But just as easily, he can have a quiet game. Now, when he does have a quiet game, that 44 was definitely lower than I thought he would be basing. I would put that down more to the Eagles just being off completely. But I think you could usually sort of lock in 50, 60 points for Olakawatu, add in the attacking stats and his tund. But yeah, if you're an owner, definitely wouldn't be worried or selling. But if you're a non-owner, definitely no need to suddenly jump on, especially with the Seagulls draw after next week getting a bit harder. So yeah, that's the only sort of talking points there for me, Turbo and Olakawatu. How about you, mate? What are your comments or thoughts on the Seagulls?
Yeah, obviously we're both turbo owners. That news that he's 50-50 is not great. I'm actually leaning towards that he's going to miss this game. I think he's going to miss it. And I've currently got a reserve on him at the moment, but I think if he had Tamale, which a lot of people should or will after this week, I wouldn't be reserving him. Just I would be putting him in the back pocket, or at least having someone in this game that you can quickly switch your reserve tag to, because I'm not expecting Turbo to play, and if he doesn't play, then I'm just switching my reserve from Turbo to Tamale. So it's definitely something to think about there. As far as the rest of the side goes, it's pretty stock standard from Manly. I would expect with Turbo, in my opinion, likely not playing. They would shift Lehigh Hopewadi back to fullback, and then they would move Talau onto a wing. Also, I know we're not betting at all this weekend, or I won't be. But if I would be having a look at those Raiders odds because I saw before they're like 260 and they're, not. I just feel like that's such disrespectful odds to a team that's just smashed the Warriors in round one, who then smashed Manly last week. They've come out and smashed the Broncos, who looked red hot, and now they're being disrespected with like $2.60 odds and underdogs in this game. Obviously it's at Lotto land, but if Turbo's out, tipping the Raiders all day on this one. And I'm just a bit shocked by that. But yeah, we can move on to the Raiders now, I think, mate. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. Just quickly, as you sort of mentioned there, with Tommy being the last game, if you are running, for example, like yourself with the three fullback gun strategy, you can just take the R off him and move it off. But for someone like me and for a lot of the super coaches out there, we're running with Iongi and Turbo
That's
or
right.
whoever,
Yeah. Sorry,
but
didn't consider
we
that.
won't be able to do that. So I'm just hoping that we get the news at 24-hour cuts rather than 1 hour cuts, because at least at 24-hour cuts, I can like rejig my team a little bit. But yeah, if I get that news with 1 hour to go, it will pull me in a bit of strife. So we'll definitely have to see and have a bit of thought as to having a bit of a backup plan in case Turbo is out. Now, I'm opposite to you. I think he will play, especially because he has been named. I just don't see why he would be named in round three if he is injured. There's no need to rush him back or whatever. I think it's simply he's got to tick a box on Friday that he passes a fitness test, something like that, and he's good to go. Obviously, the scans came back, no concerns there, but it is just the fact that it's Turbo and he has had so many, especially hamstring injuries in the past.
That's the thing, mate. I think, well, because Sebo had come out and he had said that they're going to be taking a cautious approach with him. That's what scares me, is that the fact that he said that. And why wouldn't you with your best marquee player in round three, you know? So I think even if he does pass his fitness test and he's all good to go, they might just sit him out still. And I can go either way, but I'm 60-40 lean towards he misses. The things that are pulling me towards he might play is that it's a Raiders game. Sorry, it's a home game at Lottoland. And he's a big reason that people or home fans come to watch the games. And another reason, obviously, is what you touched on. If he passes the fitness test and it's a home game, then surely you just play. But on the other side of the fence is where I'm more leaning towards, where they take a cautious approach. Even if he does pass a fitness test, they rest him because he's had so much injury history on his hamstring. So and it's round three.
Yeah, it'll definitely be one to watch. And I suppose it is both a blessing and a curse that it's the last game of the week. Blessing for it gives Turbo the most time available to be right. They obviously played Friday last week. It's what's that, a 9 day turnaround this week. So plenty of time in between. No travel for him. He just had to come home from New Zealand after that loss. And he's now chilling at Lotto Land. So yeah, I'm hoping he plays, but yeah, definitely have a contingency plan there. That covers the Seagulls, though. Moving on to the Raiders, we see Xavier Savage return from suspension, and in a big win for Supercoaches, it's Albert Hopewate that drops out, and Tamale keeps his spot. We also see Zach Hosking, he's broken his hand, and he's replaced in the starting side by Morgan Smithies. But that also big green lights here for Matty Nicholson. So my thoughts on the Raiders here. Obviously, if you don't have Tamale, this is the last week you have to get him before he goes up in price. After this week, I'm pretty sure it'll be 300k. He looks good. He's passed the eye test. He has the tackle bust. Now, he did score 60 with a try line break last week, so I would be tempering expectations a bit, but certainly someone I wouldn't be opposed to playing, especially if someone like a Turbo is out. I think that's a perfect play for you to just flick the R off him and flick it onto Tamale. Because yeah, I think he does look good, and the Raiders do appear to be a good team, especially to start the year, as I sort of touched on in the preseason podcast. Ricky always likes to bank wins early, and Raiders are always a good side early on, and they kind of fade out throughout the back of the year. The only other bloke I sort of want to touch on here is Matty Nicholson. Now he looked great for them last weekend. He looks to be an absolute goer and a bloke who can find attacking stats. Now we're going to see. I'm interested in buying this week, but ideally you can just watch and wait this week. There's no need to buy this week as his price doesn't rise until after next week. So you do have an extra week there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Matty Nicholson? Is he someone that you're interested in potentially?
100%. Definitely interested in him. He looked awesome, and I think the move with moving him, shifting him to the starting side, sort of says a bit. about where Ricky views him in the pecking order. So I'm hopeful for his turnout. But obviously you got Tarpany still to come back, and you've got Hosking as well that's injured. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes with Tarpany back in the side next week. Then again, like he's going to rise in price at the same time. So he's sort of got to make a call. Not if not this week, next week before price rise. I think have one more look at him, but definitely keen eye, and I like the look of him at his price. Other than that, in the Raiders side, not too much else. I think Tamale is one of the better buys or best buys if you don't have him this week, and everything else is pretty standard.
Yeah, just on sort of Tommy Starling. If now before this Dylan Lucas injury, I had one of my trades was Corey Pakes up to Tommy Starling. I think if you now obviously circumstances are fine, but if you can fit Tom Starling into your team and you have trades to burn, as in like someone needs to go, like say you got a Duffy or I don't know, you've got Riley Smith from the Eels, like one of these duds, I would be trying to look to move to him because he looks great. I think he's playing for a contract now, especially after they signed Brayley to the Raiders next year to sort of train up Owen Paddy, but Owen Paddy doesn't look to be biting into Starling's minutes at all. And I'm pretty sure we've seen back-to-back weeks of Starling 60 to 70 minutes. So yeah, I'm definitely really keen on him. I don't know if I can make it work anymore, but yeah, really keen on him. And I would be advising him as a buy if you have a Duffy over, say, a Humphreys sort of thing. But yeah, that covers that. Tips here, if Turbo plays for me, Seagulls will definitely win. If Turbo doesn't play, I agree with you. I think the Raiders are a real good shot. I don't know. Geez, that will be. If Turbo isn't named, I think I will tip Raiders as well. But if he
Yeah.
is with final teams, yeah, I don't see the Seagulls losing. But who knows? The Raiders' defense has been really impressive, as have they have been this year.
I don't know, mate. This one, if Turbo plays, I would lean slightly towards Seagulls, but I think I would play it by what I'm seeing pre-game from the Raiders, and also how I've gone throughout the week. Like if I need to tip an underdog to make up another tip previously, then I will go the Raiders. So either way for me, if Turbo's out, I'm 100% tipping the Raiders. Not even thinking twice about that.
Yeah, good shout there. Now that covers our TLT analysis for the week. It's time to get into trades and captaincy for the week. So we'll take it away with your side first because your trades are sort of more locked in and confirmed compared to mine. Talk us
Yeah.
through your side, your trades, and your skippers this week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I'll try and make this short and sharp. We've had a bit of a longer ep than anticipated. So Burton, obviously he's out for 5 weeks. He's got to go. Hurts after 1 week of I just traded him in last week. Now I've got to trade him back out again. So I've shifted Dewey from centre wing up to 5'8", and I brought in Arthurs for him. As you could also see at the start of the episode, I had Kane Bradley as just a bit of a nuff there, and that allowed me to loop Ponga last week. So I've traded Caden Bradley for Tamale, straight swap at the price. So some big cash down plays there. And then with the extra funds that I had, 300k odd, I have gone Valmunga up to Tino. So I don't think you can really fault those trades for my side. I think they're all quite good trades. They don't feel very attacking for me. In the sense that, if I was really going hard on attack, I'd be trading out Turbo for Teddy. I would be trading out Lucas for like a Angus Crichton or Eli Katoa or a Haas, for example. But I think on this round, I just want to bank in, make sure I've got my cheapies right. And I think Arthurs and Tamale are terrific buys in the center wing. And then obviously Tino as well. Going from Valmunga up to Tino is a huge difference, and it helps me with the dual flexibility there. So quite happy with those trades. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I think as you sort of touched on, they are kind of no-brainer trades. I love the duel with Dewey. I kind of mentioned it in the preseason. Just having these dual players like Dylan Lucas, like Dewey, to just flick him up and around is so helpful and invaluable. So yeah, I like that. Burden to Arthur's play. Arthurs is going to make 100K alone this week, could be more. And with the Broncos draw, he could very well easily be 600, 700K even if he keeps finding the
Yeah.
try line over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, I'm pretty big on Arthurs. And yeah, look, Tamale, we've touched on a lot. He's definitely a good buy. He's someone I'm trying to look to get in as well. And then yeah, you're making up for that mistake and getting Tino, who I think is a must. And he doesn't rise in price this week is the only thing I would say. And so he isn't someone you need to sort of get straight away. But yeah, look, like you'll want him next week. So all you're really doing is saving a trade for next week. So yeah,
Yeah.
can't fault those trades at all. What about your skippers? Who are you sort of leaning towards for the
Um,
week?
One other thing, sorry, is obviously I'd like to go Hopgood to Haas, but I can't. With the trades that I've got locked in, it's just not as much of a priority as the other ones, and I've got Lucas just sitting there on the reserves, who I'm happy to hold because I see him being a final team player, like come round 26. I would like Lucas in my side, you know. Um, Captaincy, I haven't really thought about it too much because it's been so set in stone for me. Hines, VC, and Ponga captain. The only way that I would um, divert from this, is by having an armband on Walsh for a bit of a bounce back and hoping that he can sort of torch the Cowboys. But I don't think I'm going to do that unless I get word that Hines isn't goal kicking this weekend. Then I might switch it up and go Walsh. But I think Pong is definitely locked in as captain. And the screenshot, sorry, it should say Turbo with the reserve and Walsh in the starting side, but I'll fix it up later. That's pretty much my side. I don't see too much else changing from there.
Yeah, mate, looks good. You should be on for a decent week, I reckon. Looks like a pretty strong side there.
Hope so,
Moving,
mate. Hopefully no one does
moving.
MCL.
Yes. Well, hopefully, if anyone gets injured this week, we know who to blame, guys. Xavier. So if Tino gets injured, if Arthurs gets injured, or Tamala gets injured, we know the bloke. Okay, for me, so my trades originally, we'll get a bit of live trading going here for you viewers. My trades were originally Valmonga out, Dylan Lucas up, and Purdue out as well for Jesse Arthurs and Tamale. So this is the trades I'm really keen on, but obviously I'm 6K short, so I can't really afford it. So there have been a lot of iterations I've been playing around with. Like there's options where I downgrade Gasevsky to that cheapie from the Dragons. There's been ones where instead of selling Valmunga, I sell Nafu White to Arthurs, and that affords me the Pakes upgrade to Starling. I've also had one where it's Valmunga out as well as White for Nicholson and Arthurs. So I'm not entirely locked in on what I'm doing yet, especially with the Dylan sort of Lucas news, but yeah, who would you be trading if you were me for that third trade to kind of fund that?
Uh, that's really tough, mate. I would be tempted to trade Lucas out for sure, just with your side. And yeah, look, just the structure, but I think I'd be tempted to trade out Lucas and go to someone like potentially a Connor Watson
Mm.
as a downgrade with the Roosters draw. But then again, I don't know if that's worth it. Same thing. I think you could tinker around with selling Roger, honestly, as well. I think it's
He was someone I did have a look at. So I was looking at, it was initially early doors, it was selling Turbo, but then it changed because he was obviously named to Garrick. And then I kind of decided if I'm selling a center wing, I want to keep Lucas
yeah,
just because I think I'm going to keep him all year. I'd
that's
rather
it.
just sell myself the trade, chill him on the bench, but just know that I've got him to come back. Yeah, and then it went down to okay, it's between Marzu, RTS, and Garrick. Now Marzu's been absolutely electric. I am massive on him, so I'm definitely not selling him. Garrick, I'm still keen on. I wasn't as keen in the preseason, but yeah, Roger's been the one that, despite still scoring well, there's a little bit of concern around.
Yeah, I
But
think you could definitely look into that because he's solid, but I don't think he's going to get massive scores just the way the Warriors are. Like I can't back the Warriors to pump sides every week. So I think in centre wing you want guys that are going to put on points and frequently score. And I think Roger's solid. No, by no means a trade out, but I think you could definitely have a tinker around with instead of selling Purdue, sell Roger down to these two guys. And with that extra cash, potentially you could upgrade, I don't know, Yongi. Oh, so maybe I'm a bit of a Yongi hater, but yeah, I don't know. With that extra cash, you could see what you could do.
I'm pretty sure
With
I
that,
can afford Pap. I was playing around with it before. I'm pretty sure I could afford owing it to Pap, but yeah, just with the Storm. Decisions. So yes, obviously you guys won't be getting my locked in trades on this episode or this podcast episode, but I will definitely be tweeting it. So don't forget to follow it at Hooked on NRL SC on Twitter. And so yeah, I think that pretty much sums up and wraps up this week. Just quickly, my VC, I'm pretty keen on VC Hines, but I'm no longer as sure on C Ponga. So I might have a look around. I might even end up going like a VC Haas into a C Hines. Just depends on how strong the word is that we hear out of it. But yeah, nothing too locked in for me really at this point. So
yeah,
I'm
fair
sure
enough,
there'll
mate.
be a bit of panic going into tomorrow, especially with teamless. But I'm in a good rank, so I don't really need to. There's no injuries or there's nothing I'm really reacting to. It's just really how can I improve my team moving forward and like building that depth and cash generation because it's such a massive moving week, round 3, round 4, with all the price ranges and changes. But yeah, that wraps up another episode. So this is episode 7 of the Hooked on NRL Supercoach. We hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. So remember, 50 likes, and I'll be giving away one of these signed balls to whoever is winning the competition at the end of the season. So yeah, 50 likes, guys. So don't forget to like, comment, share it round. Apart from that, that pretty much covers it from me. Thanks for welcome back, Zabe. Thanks for
Yeah.
making it on for this episode. Any closing regards or any final comments?
No, nothing, mate. Hopefully the Warriors and Tigers can back it up again this week and come away with back-to-back wins. But yeah, happy to be back and yeah, talking some more Supercoach. Best of luck for the weekend, and same goes to everyone out there watching us. Best of luck, everyone, for the weekend. I hope everyone's team does well, and yeah,
Don't forget to
VC.
comment your trades in the or comment your trades, comment your VCs, your Cs. Let us know what you're doing. It might give us some clarity, or we might be able to give you some feedback, sort of thing. But yeah,
100%, mate. Yeah, thanks everyone, and yeah, thanks for a great episode. Bish, keen
yeah,
to go back around again next week.
awesome stuff, Zave. Thanks for that, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Easy. Cheers, guys.